The combat arena of the Galactic Academy was silent. Hundreds of students stood in wide rows around the circular floor. Some were tall and thin, with long arms and glowing eyes. Others were covered in scales, fur, or metal-like skin. Every species in the known galaxy trained here. Every species followed the same rules. Above them, the instructors watched from a raised platform. At the center stood Instructor Korath, a towering alien with 4 arms and a voice like grinding stone. Today's lesson, Korath said, his voice echoing through the arena, is about limitation. Screens lit up behind him. Old battle footage appeared. Broken soldiers. Collapsed bodies. Weapons lying in pools of dark blood for thousands of cycles. Korath continued. Every species has tested the same idea. Dual-wielding melee weapons. A low murmur spread through the students. It always ends the same way, Korath said. Loss of balance. Neural overload. Total failure. He turned, all 4 eyes scanning the crowd. That is why the rule exists, he said. No species can dual-wield. The rule was not questioned. It never had been. Most students nodded. Some looked relieved. Others looked afraid. Near the back of the formation stood a human girl. Her name was Ari Vale. She was smaller than most in the arena. No claws, no armor plates. Just a simple training uniform and short dark hair tied behind her head. She listened quietly, her face calm. Korath raised one heavy arm and pointed toward the weapon rack at the edge of the arena. Long blades of many designs rested there. Anyone who breaks this rule, he said, is removed from the academy. Or worse. The silence grew heavier. Then Ari stepped forward. The sound of her boots against the floor echoed far too. Loudly, several students turned in surprise. A few aliens hissed or whispered. Humans rarely spoke during instruction. Humans rarely challenged instructors at all. Yes, Korath asked, his tone sharp. Ari stopped a few steps from the center. She stood straight, hands at her sides. What happens, she asked, her voice steady, if someone tries anyway? The arena froze. No one had asked that question before. Korath stared down at her. Then slowly he laughed, a deep mocking sound. You are human, he said. That explains the question. Some students laughed with him. Others looked uncomfortable. The answer is simple, Korath continued. They fail. They break. They are carried out. Ari nodded once. And if they don't? She asked. The laughter stopped. Korath's eyes narrowed. You speak too freely. I speak because I want to learn, Ari replied. For a moment, the instructor said nothing. Then he waved one arm. Return to your place, he ordered. Ari did not move. Instead, she turned. She walked toward the weapon rack. Gasps rippled through the arena. Instructor, one assistant began. Stop her, another whispered. Korath raised an arm, then paused. His expression shifted not to fear, but to curiosity. Let her, he said. Ari reached the rack. She did not rush. She did not hesitate. Her eyes scanned the blades, judging weight and balance. She chose. 2, they were identical swords. Long, simple, solid. Metal, she lifted the first sword easily. Then, she lifted the second. The moment her fingers closed around both hilts, the arena alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Warning symbols filled the air. Drop them. An instructor shouted. Ari did not. She stood still. One sword in each hand. Her arms trembled not from fear but from effort. Sweat formed on her brow. Her breathing slowed, controlled. Sensors tracked her heart rate. It was high but stable. Impossible, someone whispered. Human. Nervous system cannot handle that? Another. Said Ari slowly raised her head. Her eyes were focused, clear. She took one step forward. The alarms grew. Louder. Korath leaned forward, his confidence fading. That is enough, he said. You are endangering yourself. Ari did not answer. She adjusted her stance. Left foot forward. Knees bent. Shoulders relaxed. Not the stance of someone forcing control, the stance of someone who understood it. For the first time in centuries, the rule did not feel certain. Around the arena, students watched without breathing. Some felt fear. Others felt excitement. A few felt something. New-doubt.ri lifted both swords into a ready position, not crossed, not wild, balanced, perfectly balanced. The alarms cut out. Silence slammed down harder than the noise ever had. Korath's voice was quiet now. "Human," he said. "Put the weapons down." Ari met his gaze. "No," she said. The word was calm, respectful, absolute. She took another step. The instructors moved there, hands toward emergency controls. The test had already gone too far, and yet no one stopped it, because everyone in the arena understood the truth. In that moment, the rule was breaking, and they were about to see what happened after impossible failed. The silence in the arena did not last long. Instructor Korath raised one heavy arm, and the emergency lights dimmed. The alarms stayed off, but the tension remained thick in the air. Ari still stood in the center of the arena, holding one sword in each hand. She did not move. She did not lower them. Slowly, Korath straightened his tall frame. "Enough," he said, his voice firm but no longer mocking. "You have made your point." Ari did not relax, but she lowered the sword slightly. Not in defeat, only in patience. Korath turned to the students. "What you are seeing is dangerous," he said, "and it is not new." With a gesture, the screens around the arena lit up again. This time, they showed old records. Much older than before. Long before this academy existed. Korath said, many species believed strength meant holding more weapons. 2 claws. 2 blades. More power. The images changed. A tall, armored alien rushed into battle with weapons in both hands. His movements were fast at first. Then they became wild. His body twisted. His weapons clashed against each other. The image ended with the alien collapsing. His nervous system burned out. "This is what happens," Korath continued. "The brain cannot divide focus fast enough. The body cannot keep balance. Pain signals cross. Control is lost." More footage played. Different species. Different worlds. The result was always the same. Failure, in time, Korath said. Every species agreed. Dual-wielding was not worth the cost. The rule was created to protect lives. Students watched in silence. Some turned away. Others looked uneasy. Ari listened carefully. When the screens went dark, she spoke. "Those species trained strength," she said, "not coordination." A low murmur spread. Korath looked at her sharply. "Explain." "They fought with power first," Ari said. "Speed second. Control last." She shifted her grip slightly, adjusting her balance again. "Humans learn control first." The words were simple, but they landed heavily. One instructor scoffed. "Human arrogance. Human experience," Ari replied. Korath raised a hand to silence the others. He studied her, truly studying her for the first time. "You are suggesting," he said slowly, "that your species is different?" "Yes," Ari said. "We fall more. We fail more. We adapt faster." The arena remained quiet. Korath turned to the council members watching from above. Their expressions showed doubt, interest, and concern. "You request a formal test?" Korath asked. "Yes," Ari said. "Under academy rules," he said, "this test may cause injury or death." "I accept," she replied. Some students shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned forward. Korath nodded once. "Then the rule will be tested." At his signal, 2 assistant instructors moved into the arena. They carried small devices and placed them around Ari. Thin beams of light scanned her body. Full neural monitoring. One assistant said. "Muscle strain tracking. Balance sensors." Another assistant hesitated. "Instructor, If her nervous system spikes, then we stop, Korath said. Ari stood still during the scans. Her face showed focus, not fear. Test conditions, Korath announced. No opponents. No combat yet. Only movement. The students seemed surprised. Some expected an immediate fight. Ari nodded. That made sense. Korath stepped back. Begin when ready. Ari inhaled slowly. Then she moved. At first it was simple. A single step forward, one sword lifted. Then the other, her arms moved in separate paths. Not fast, careful. The sensors flashed yellow. Then green. Neural load increasing, an assistant said. But stable, Ari continued. She turned her wrists, letting the blades trace smooth arcs through the air. Her shoulders rolled naturally. Her weight shifted with each motion. The swords never collided. They never fought each other. They worked together. Impossible. At! Someone whispered again. Korath did not respond. His eyes were locked on the data. Brain activity shows high multitasking, an assistant said, but no overload. Ari's breathing remained steady. Sweat ran down her neck, but her movements did not break. After several minutes, Korath raised his arm. Pause. Ari stopped instantly. Her arms trembled now. Pain showed in her clenched jaw. But she did not drop the swords. Korath stepped forward. You are under strain, he said. Yes, Ari replied. So is anybody learning something new? Korath studied the readouts again. This should not be possible, he said quietly. Ari met his gaze. Rules are built from old limits, she said, not new ones. The words echoed in the arena. Korath straightened. His voice returned to its commanding tone. The test will continue, he announced. But conditions will change. The assistants looked up sharply. Prepare combat drones, Korath said. A sharp intake of breath spread through the students. Low level, he added. Observation only. Assistants moved quickly. Ari tightened her grip. This was no longer just a test of balance. It was about survival above the arena. The council members leaned forward. The rule had protected them for centuries, but now a human was pushing against it, and the academy was about to learn why humans were feared not for their strength, but for their refusal to accept limits. The combat drones rose silently from the floor. They were small, round machines with thin arms and glowing sensors. Each one carried a light training blade. They floated in the air around Ari, forming a loose circle. There were 6 of them, more than enough to overwhelm a normal student. The arena lights dimmed slightly. The room felt smaller now. Ari stood in the center, 2 swords still in her hands. Her arms ached. Her shoulders burned. Every nerve in her body was alert. She did not look at the drones all at once. She looked at spaces, gaps, angles, distance. Begin, instructor Korath said. The drones moved to attack first, sliding forward in quick, sharp lines. Their blades aimed for Ari's sides. Testing her balance, Ari stepped back. Her left sword rose to block the first strike. At the same time, her right sword turned outward, catching the second blade. The metal rang out. Loud and clear. Gasps echoed across the arena. She blocked both. Someone whispered. The drones pulled back and adjusted. Their sensors flashed, learning from her movements. Ari felt the strain increase. Her brain worked faster now, sending commands to both arms at once. Pain flared along her spine, sharp and hot. She clenched her teeth, then she moved again. This time, she did not wait. She stepped forward and swung both swords, but not together. Her left blade struck low, forcing a drone to rise. Her right blade followed a heartbeat later. Cutting across the space the drone moved into, the drone split cleanly in 2 and fell to the floor. Silence broke into shocked noise. 1 drone down, an assistant said. Stunned, the remaining drones spread out. They attacked from 3 sides at once. Too fast? Too much, at least. It should have been. Ari's body reacted before thought fully formed. Her left sword spun in a tight circle, knocking 1 blade away. Her right sword stabbed forward, forcing another drone to retreat. She twisted, barely avoiding a third strike that grazed her arm. Pain exploded across her skin. Her vision blurred for half. A second, the sensors flashed yellow, then red. Neural load rising fast, an assistant warned. She's reaching the limit. Korath's claws tightened, prepare to stop the test. But Ari did not stop. She adjusted. Instead of trying to track every drone, she changed how she moved. She shortened her swings. She kept her elbows closer. She let the swords guide her body, not the other way around. Her movements became smaller, sharper, more human. The drones attacked again. This time, Ari did something no one expected. She crossed her sword's knot to block. But two trap. Two drone blades struck at once. Ari twisted both wrists inward, locking the enemy weapons together for a single instant. Then she pulled. Drones collided with each other. Ari stepped aside and struck once. Both drones fell. The arena erupted into noise. That maneuver, an instructor began, has never been recorded, another finished. Only two drones remained. They paused, recalculating. Their sensors flickered rapidly. Ari breathed heavily now. Her arms shook. Sweat dripped onto the floor. She felt the edge of collapse pressing close. But she also felt something else focus. She remembered old human training drills. Simple ones. Falling down, getting up, failing again and again, till the body learned without thinking. This was no different. The drones attacked together. One came high. One came low. Ari moved, not fast, correct. Her right sword blocked the high strike. Her left sword struck the lower drone's arm. She turned, using the drone's own momentum to pull it forward. She did not finish it. Instead, she threw it. The drone slammed into the last one, sending both crashing into the arena wall. They fell, broken and still. For a moment, no one spoke. Ari stood alone, two swords still in her hands. Her chest rose and fell hard. Her arms burned with pain. Her vision swam at the edges, but she was standing. She didn't overpower them, one student whispered. She redirected them. Korath stepped forward slowly. "End test," he said. The arena lights brightened. Medical teams rushed in, but Ari raised one hand slightly. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice rough, but steady. She finally lowered the swords, placed them gently on the floor. The sensors powered down. Assistants stared at the data in disbelief. "No neural collapse," one said. "No loss of balance." Another shook their head. "This breaks every model we have." Korath looked at Ari, his expression unreadable. "You did not fight like other species," he said. Ari nodded. "We don't try to control everything," she replied. "We learn to recover when we lose control." The words stayed with everyone who heard them. Around the arena, students realized they had just witnessed something rare, not raw strength, not special weapons, but a different way of thinking. The rule had been broken once, and now the galaxy would have to decide what to do with the species that broke it, not by force, but by adaptation. Ari stood quietly among the instructors, unaware that this was only the beginning. The real test was still coming. The arena did not return to normal. Even after the broken drones were cleared away, no one moved back to their places. The students stayed frozen, eyes locked on Ari. The instructors whispered among themselves. Data screens kept scrolling, with numbers no one fully understood yet. Instructor. Korath raised one arm again. "This test is not complete," he said. A quiet wave of tension passed. Through the room, Ari stood near the center, her arms hanging at her sides now. Without the swords, the pain became clearer. Her muscles shook slightly. Her hands felt numb, like they no longer belonged to her. She welcomed the feeling. Pain meant she was still in control. "Dual-wielding has failed in the past," Korath continued. "Not during short combat, but under pressure. Sustained pressure," turned to the assistants. "Increased difficulty. Phase 2. Several instructors stiffened. "Instructor," one said carefully. "Her body is already near limit." "That," Korath replied, "is exactly the point." Ari looked up. She understood. This was where others had broken. Two new weapon racks rose from the floor. This time, the swords were heavier, longer. Not designed for training, Ari walked forward, without being told, when she lifted the first sword. Arm dropped slightly under the weight. The second sword felt worse. Her shoulders screamed in protest. The sensors flared orange, muscle strain rising fast, an assistant warned. Ari adjusted her grip and stance, spreading her weight more evenly. She did not fight the pain. She made room for it. Korath raised his arm. "Begin." The arena floor shifted. Panels slid apart. New drones rose, larger than before. These were not simple training machines. They moved faster. Their attacks were not predictable. 4 of them surrounded Ari. She lifted both swords, the moment she did. Pain exploded across her arms and spine. Her vision darkened at the edges. This time, there was no shock. No excitement. Only effort. The drones attacked. Ari blocked the first strike, but her timing was off by a fraction. The impact jolted her shoulder. Pain shot down her arm, and her grip nearly failed. She staggered. A sharp sound echoed as a blade scraped. Across her side, blood appeared on her uniform. "Stop." "The test," an assistant said urgently. Korath did not answer. Ari breathed out slowly. She did not look at the wound. She looked at her feet. Her balance was wrong. She shifted her stance. The drones attacked again. This time, Ari did not meet force with force. She stepped inside the attack range, where the drone's long arms were weakest. One sword blocked. The other pressed, guiding the enemy blade away rather than stopping it. Her movements were slower now. But smarter, eh? Drone struck from behind. Ari felt it a moment too late. The blade hit her back and sent her forward. She fell to one knee, both swords scraping against the floor. A collective gasp filled the arena. "She's done," someone whispered. The sensors flashed red. Pain roared through Ari's body. Her hands shook violently. Her arms begged to let go. For a moment, she almost did. Then she remembered something simple. Humans did not train to avoid pain. They trained to move while hurt. Ari pushed herself up, not fast, not strong, just enough. The drones hesitated. Their programming had not expected recovery. That hesitation saved her. Ari rose and spun, using the motion of standing to power her strike. One drone fell back, damaged but not destroyed. Her breathing turned rough. Each breath burned. "Her nervous system is adapting," an assistant said in disbelief. "It's rerouting control. It should not be possible," another replied. Korath watched silently. The drones attacked again. Ari made a mistake. Her right sword slipped. Just slightly. The pain surged, sharp and blinding. Her fingers nearly opened. Instead of forcing her grip, she changed it. She loosened her hand. The sword shifted angle. The drone's blade slid past instead of crashing into it. Ari countered with her left sword, striking not the drone's body, but its sensor cluster. The drone fell. Blind 3 left. Ari's legs shook now. Blood soaked into her uniform. Her vision flickered, but her movements became cleaner. She stopped. Thinking about winning, she thought only about staying upright. The drones circled. One rushed her. Ari stepped sideways and let it pass. Cutting its power core as it moved by, another struck low. She jumped back, barely clearing the blade. Her landing hurt more than the strike would. Have she cried out but did not stop? The final 2 drones attacked together, too close, too fast. Ari crossed her swords again, not to trap, to brace. The impact slammed into her arms and sent her skidding across the floor. Her back hit the ground hard, for a heartbeat. Everything went quiet. Then Ari moved. She rolled twisted, and struck upward with both blades at once. The drones fell in pieces. The arena fell completely silent. Ari lay on the floor, staring up at the lights. Her chest heaved. Her arms refused to move, but she was alive, and the rule had not won. Korath stepped forward slowly. "This," he said, his voice low, "is where every other species failed." Looked down at the human who still held both swords. "And you endured." Medical teams rushed in as Ari finally released the weapons. Her hands trembled as they fell, as she was lifted onto a stretcher. Her eyes stayed open. She had not mastered dual-wielding. She had survived it, and that, the galaxy was beginning to understand, was the most human thing of all. The medical bay was quiet except for soft machine sounds. Ari lay on a narrow bed, lights glowing gently above her. Bands wrapped around her arms, chest, and legs, feeding data into screens nearby. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, blinking slowly. She was in pain. Every breath pulled fire through her ribs. Her arms felt heavy, like they were made of stone. But her mind was clear, clearer than it had ever been. Around her stood instructors, healers, and council observers. No one spoke loudly. No one joked. This was no longer a lesson. "This should not be possible," one healer said softly, studying the data. "Her nervous system should have shut down." "It didn't," another replied. "It adapted." Instructor Korath stood at the foot of the bed. His forearms were folded, his posture tense. Ari turned her head slightly and looked at him. "Is the test over?" she asked. Her voice was weak, but steady. Korath paused. "The test you were given?" "Yes." Ari nodded once. Then she closed her eyes for a moment, before anyone could speak again. Alarms rang out, not warning alarms, but alert signals. One of the assistants looked up at a screen in surprise. "Instructor," they said. "External response incoming." Korath turned. "From where?" "Multiple academies," the assistant replied. "And military observers?" The room grew tense. Word had spread faster than expected. Korath looked back at Ari. "You should rest." Ari opened her eyes again. "No," she said. "They won't wait." She slowly pushed herself up. The healers protested, but she ignored them. Every movement hurt, but she forced her body to listen. Korath watched closely. "You should not be able to move." Ari gave a weak smile. "I shouldn't be able to do a lot of things. Against all advice." She stood. Moments later, the arena lights came back on. Students filled the stands again, but this time the energy was different. Fear mixed with excitement. Rumors flew between species. At the center of the arena, a new platform had been raised. On it stood members of the Academy Council, beings of great rank and long memory. Korath stepped forward. "A human cadet," he announced, "has challenged one of our oldest rules." The council leader, a tall being with glowing markings, looked down. "The rule exists for survival," the leader said, "not pride." Ari stepped forward beside Korath. "I know," she said. "That's why I didn't try to prove I was strong." The council watched her carefully. "I tried to prove I could recover," she continued. "Because in real combat, something always goes wrong." A ripple moved through the crowd. The council leader turned to Korath. "Your report?" Korath took a breath. She did not overpower the system. She adapted to it. Her body changed under stress. "Change is dangerous," the leader replied. "So is staying the same," Ari said quietly. The words carried farther than expected. The council fell silent. After a long pause, the leader raised one arm. "One more test," they said. "A final confirmation." Murmurs exploded through the arena. Korath's eyes widened. "She is injured." "This test will not be about endurance," the leader replied. "It will be about control." The floor shifted again. A single combat drone rose, but this one was different. It was faster, smarter. Its movements were unpredictable. Designed to react, not repeat. Ari stared at it, her body. Screamed at her to stop. She picked up two swords anyway. "Not." The heavy ones from before? Her old blades, she took her. Stance. The drone attacked instantly. Ari barely moved. She did not rush. She did not force speed. She waited. When the drone struck, Ari used one sword to guide the blade away. The other sword stayed close to her body, ready. She took a step, then another. The drone adjusted. Learning fast, so did she. This was not a fight. It was a conversation. Steel met steel again and again. Each time, Ari used less movement, less strength, more timing. Her pain faded into the background. The drone made one. Final strike, Ari moved both swords at once, not wide, not dramatic, precise. The drone froze. Its power core shut down. It fell. The arena exploded with sound. Some cheered. Some stood in shock. Some said nothing at all. Ari lowered the sword slowly. She did not smile. The council leader stood. The rule is no longer absolute. Gasps echoed across the arena. It will be revised, the leader continued. Humans will be studied carefully. Ari exhaled. She had not won a victory. She had opened a door. Korath looked at her. You changed doctrine today, he said. Ari shook her head. No, she replied. I showed you what happens when you stop assuming failure. She left the arena, supported by medics. Students watched her with new eyes, not as a reckless human, not as a fragile one, but as something far more dangerous, a species that could suffer, adapt, and still move forward. The rule had broken, and the galaxy would never feel as safe again. The days after the test felt unreal. Ari was moved to a guarded recovery wing. The room was quiet, clean, and far too calm for what she had caused. Through the wide window, she could see ships coming and going from the academy docks. Many were not training vessels. They were observers, military ships, research ships, diplomatic envoys. The galaxy was paying attention. Ari sat on the edge of her bed, slowly moving her fingers. The pain was still there, but it was changing. Her body felt different, tighter in some places, lighter in others, as if it had learned something new and was still deciding how to keep it. Instructor. Korath entered the room alone. You are no longer a simple cadet, he said. Ari looked up. I never was. Korath made a low sound that might have been a laugh. The council has issued a temporary status, he continued. You are restricted, observed, and protected. From who? Ari asked. Korath paused. From those who fear what you represent? Outside the academy, reactions spread fast. On distant worlds, recordings of the test played again and again. Analysts slowed the footage, studying every movement. Some called it luck. Others called it a trick. Many called it dangerous. This is why humans cannot be trusted. One alien general said during a broadcast, they ignore limits. They survive because of it, another replied. Arguments filled councils and command. Rooms across the stars. Some species demanded humans be restricted from advanced training. Others demanded human instructors. A few quietly began their own experiments at the academy. Students felt the change first. Training schedules shifted. Old drills were removed. New observation teams watched, human cadets more closely than ever before. Some alien students avoided Ari. When she walked the halls, others followed at a distance. Whispering, she broke a rule older than my world, one said. She almost died. Another replied, yes, the first answered, and she didn't stop. One evening, Ari was allowed to walk outside under guard. The academy lights reflected off smooth metal paths. The air was cool and still. A group of students stood ahead. Blocking the path, they were not humans. One stepped forward, tall and sharpened. You endangered us all, he said. Ari stopped. She did not reach for any weapon. I followed the test, she replied. You showed the council that rules can be broken, another said. That leads to chaos. Ari met their gazes one by one. Rules don't prevent chaos, she said. They only delay it. Students did not attack her. They stepped aside. Fear was not always loud. Instructors struggled the most. For centuries, they had taught certainty. Now, they were forced to teach questions. Instructor Korath stood before a group of teachers in a closed chamber. The data is clear, he said. Humans do not avoid overload. They train to function inside it. That is reckless, one instructor argued. That is reality, Korath replied. Then what do we teach? Another asked. Korath looked at the floor for a long moment. We teach adaptation, he said at last. Ari was summoned before the council again. This time, the chamber was full. The council leader spoke calmly. Your actions have forced change. Ari stood straight. Change was already coming. You are correct, the leader said. You simply made it visible. The council offered her many things. Rank, authority, command. Ari refused them all. I don't want power, she said. I want understanding. The council leader studied her. Then you will help train others. Humans. Ari asked. All species? The leader replied. That decision shook the academy more than the test ever had. Some instructors protested. Some students cheered. Some feared what would come next. Ari began teaching slowly, not with swords, with balance drills. Simple movements. Controlled failure. She showed students how to fall safely, how to recover, how to think while tired and hurting. Many failed. Some quit. Few adapted. Those few changed everything. Alien students who trained with humans learned something new. They did not become stronger. They became harder to stop. Reports from border conflicts soon followed. Units trained with human methods lasted longer under fire. They made fewer fatal mistakes. They adapted faster when plans failed. The galaxy took notice. Not everyone approved in dark places. Plans were made. If humans can break one rule, some whispered, they can break others. Ari felt the tension growing, even as she taught. One night she stood alone in the training hall. 2 swords resting on the rack beside her. She did not touch them. She knew the truth. Now, breaking the rule was never the danger. What came after was the galaxy had seen what humans could do under pressure, and some would want to use that knowledge. Others would want to erase it. Ari looked at her hands, steady and scarred. The test had changed her. The galaxy was changing too, and soon. It would have to decide whether humans were a threat to control or a lesson to learn from. The training hall was quiet, not empty, but calm in a way it had never been before. The walls no longer displayed warning signs about forbidden techniques. The weapon racks held many kinds of blades, some old, some newly designed. Among them were pairs-matched sets, placed there on purpose. Ari stood at the center of the hall. She was no longer injured. Scars remained, thin lines across her arms and side, reminders of pain that had taught her something important. Around her stood students of many species. Some were tall and armored. Others were small and fast. All of them watched her closely. Ari did not hold swords. She held a simple training staff. Today, she said, we are not learning to fight. Some students shifted, confused. We are learning to fail safely. She continued. She demonstrated a slow movement, then intentionally lost balance and fell. She rolled, stood back up, and repeated it. When things go wrong, she said, your body wants to freeze. Humans train to keep moving. The students copied her. Many fell badly. Some laughed in embarrassment. Ari let them. Across the academy, change continued. New doctrine replaced old rules. Not many, just enough. Dual-wielding was no longer forbidden. It was labeled advanced and dangerous. Humans were not praised as superior. They were studied as different. That difference unsettled many. One cycle later, a crisis arrived. A border station near hostile space was attacked. Not by a large force, but by something worse and predictable, enemies that changed tactics constantly. Standard defense units failed within minutes. A mixed species team trained under Ari's methods was sent in. They survived, not because they were stronger, because when their plans failed, they did not freeze. The report reached the council quickly. So did another message. A private one. Instructor Korath met Ari in the observation chamber. His posture was heavy. "Some council members want you removed," he said. Ari nodded. "Because I make them uncomfortable. Because you prove that safety is an illusion," Korath replied. Ari looked out at the stars beyond the glass. Safety was always an illusion. The council met in full session. Voices rose. Arguments clashed. Humans destabilize balance. Humans improve survival rates. They inspire dangerous thinking. They inspire adaptation. At last, the council leader raised their hand. "The question is not whether humans break rules," the leader said. "The question is whether the galaxy can afford not to learn from them." Silence followed. The decision was made. The Academy would not suppress human methods. It would spread them slowly. Carefully, openly, Ari was offered a permanent position. Not command, not rank. Title Instructor of Adaptive Combat, she accepted. Years passed, the Academy changed shape. Training halls grew larger. New courses were added. Students learned how to manage stress, pain, and confusion. Dual-wielding remained rare, but no longer impossible. Ari aged. Not quickly, but noticeably. Humans did that. On her final day of active teaching, the hall was full. Students stood in perfect rows. Ari walked to the weapon rack. She paused. Then she picked up 2 swords, the same ones she had used years ago. A quiet ripple passed through the room. "Won't show you how to fight with 2 blades," she said. "You already know the movements." She raised the swords not to attack, but to rest them lightly against her shoulders. "I will tell you why it worked." She looked at them. "One by one, other species trained to avoid failure," she said. "Humans expect it." She lowered one sword, then the other. When the instructor said no species can dual wield, "The rule wasn't about biology," she continued. "It was about fear." She placed the swords back on the rack. "Humans don't win because we are special," Ari said. "We win because we don't stop when things hurt, when things break, or when rules fail." The hall was silent. "You will all face a moment when something is called impossible," she finished. "When that happens, remember this." She tapped her chest once. "Impossible just means the cost hasn't been paid yet." Ari left the hall to quiet respect. Years later, new students would hear stories, not about a girl with 2 swords, but about the day. The galaxy learned something simple and terrifying. Humans were not dangerous because they broke rules. They were dangerous because they adapted after the rules broke. And once that lesson spread, the word impossible quietly disappeared from galactic doctrine forever.